Hi, my name's Bennett. This is how you cook mashed potatoes and sauerbraten. For our potatoes, first get out a cutting board, get a pasta pot full of water, put it on high, and get yourself a wet washcloth to put under the cutting board. Next thing we're going to do is peel our first potato with a paring knife with a very adorable dog in the background, and realize it's far too slow to be efficient to do on camera. Root around in our drawer, get ourselves a vegetable peeler, and continue peeling our potatoes that way. What you're going to want to do for this part is save some of the potato skins. This way you will maximize flavor while minimizing waste. Now we need to wait for the pot to boil. Hold on. Now that's a lot better. Let's put our potatoes into boil and wait. After a surprisingly long amount of time has passed, we can now take a sip of our freshly brewed tea and take our potatoes out of the pot. Now what we're going to do here is grab all of the potatoes and skins that I forgot to mention, put it in with some butter and some milk, and mash it up. Serve in a container or keep it refrigerated for 1 to 2 weeks. Next we are going to brown our meat for the sauerbraten itself. Generally you want to put 1/4 cup of vegetable oil in a hot cast iron pan and gently brown it on each side until a crust forms. Now the crust that forms on the steak, or the browning even, doesn't have to be perfect. It is going to cook for around 8 hours, but it should be brown on each side pretty thoroughly. Now, our steak is ready for the crock pot. Add 1/2 cup of firmly packed brown sugar, 2 tablespoons pickling spices, 1/2 cup chopped onion, 1 cup of red wine vinegar, and 3 cups of water. As for the history of sauerbraten, not much is really known apart from the fact that it seems to have been invented in the Holy Roman Empire, the area now known as more or less modern-day Germany, and it was invented by Charlemagne, who was the emperor at the time, as a means of preserving just beef that had been already roasted but just not eaten. The reason this dish got popular was due to the actions of a man named Saint Albert the Great, who was a saint that basically just brought the whole dish of sauerbraten into the public eye. As for my family history with sauerbraten, this recipe has been passed down for generations in my family. My many times great grandparents moved from Germany in pilgrim times, and basically what they did, they opened up a hotel in Canada, and in the 1880s that hotel burned down, but they were serving the same recipe I cooked here today the entire time. Now, what you have to understand about sauerbraten is that generally you want to use any kind of red meat, be it beef or pork or even venison or horse in some instances. It's a good idea to just tenderize the meat with all the spices and especially the long cooking time. And it's usually served with some kind of potato dumpling, though I don't really have that readily available to me, so mashed potatoes will have to do. Anyways, let's get back to our roast. 8 hours later, it's time for our steak to come out of the crock pot. The beef has now thoroughly absorbed all of the flavors from all of the spices and ingredients we put in, and it looks beautiful. Grab any extra pieces out and start getting the juices out into a large saucepan for boiling. After the juices start boiling, we're going to add the final component of our recipe, ginger snap. This will thicken our juices and help them become a nice thick gravy to put on both the meat and the potatoes. Just snap some ginger snaps in there and start stirring. Generally, you want to add around a dozen ginger snaps to the gravy. And if that doesn't work, you can keep adding more. If it gets too thick, you can start adding some water, but generally you want a nice, thick, creamy texture to the gravy. Now that we have all of our components together, it's time to plate. First goes on some mashed potatoes, then the sauerbraten, and finally the gravy. And my God, it looks good. Let's see how it tastes. Turns out it tastes really good. The creaminess of the potatoes really meld with the texture of the beef, and the sourness of both the beef and the gravy just give it a very rich, unifying flavor that you don't really find much in home cooking, at least in my household. I am happy to say that I cleaned my plate for this, and that wasn't just for the video.